Welcome to the FSHD radio show, FSHD Society radio show. It's this hot off the press episode. We are here with Leigh Reynolds, and man, we got a lot of ground to cover in a short amount of time, so we're going to hit it to you quick. So it might feel like a little bit of a fire hose of information.
That's true.
But no worries. No worries. We have the right person in the seat to guide us through, as always. So welcome, Leigh. Thanks for taking some time with us.
Thanks. That's always a treat and a joy to be on the show with you, Tim. I love it so much. So, yes, I always say I'll talk fast, you listen fast. We'll do our best.
Yes.
There is because we got to stick to our format here, right? This is the short form show, and I can be really wordy, so I'll try to be more succinct today.
Well, I think the key has been that we've had a lot of great episodes. We've talked about, drug trials, Fulcrum Phase 3. We had early onset group come and talk about what's happening with their mission, trying to get more exposure and more people signing up for trials, especially in the younger age group, that we don't have enough impact there. And we're really keying in on those things the last several hot off the press episodes. But
That's
this
right.
one, we kind of shift a little bit, and it's great to hear about those things. There's no question. But we're multifaceted. A lot of things are going on with FSHD Society. And as we wander in here to the fourth quarter of the year, there's even stronger push financially, of course, to help grow that. And tell us a little bit, what's going on here with FSHD Society? There's a lot brewing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you hit on it there in the beginning. So much of what we do is try to be a conduit for the important information that patients and families need to know. When you've got Roche announcing its phase 2 clinical trial, Epic Bio comes into the space with a $55 million investment with FSHD as its lead therapy. Lismapimod, which is the Fulcrum drug that continues to show promise, and it's going into phase 3 clinical trials. The list is lengthy. There's a lot happening in the field, and the FSHD Society has been one of the players in that. We've been bringing people to the table with the International Research Congress and with the Industry Collaborative and all the work that we've done for the last many, many years to help get the industry to this place. That's been the goal. Is we were hoping, wouldn't it be great when Mark Stone started? He said, wouldn't it be great if we had 8 to 10 companies working in the space? We have over 20 companies working in FSHD, actively targeting treatments and a cure for FSHD. And that's been covering the airwaves for a long time, as it should be. Very, very important stuff. Anybody wants to catch up on any of that information, you can go to our blog, click on the category FSHD research, and you will have a long list of blogs that June has written to sort of keep everybody up to date on what's been happening in the space. And so while we're a part of that, there's also a whole heck of a lot that the FSHD Society staff is doing in a myriad of categories to continue to move things forward for patients and families. And I tell you, I said this, I was at a 360, FSHD 360 event on Saturday with KU Medical Center here in Kansas City, where I hail from. And I made a comment during one of my presentations about our small but mighty 14-person staff in the whole country, in the whole world. And all of a sudden, there were about 50 people in the room at that event. And I see all these people looking at each other, 14, you could see on their face.
Yeah.
And I had to pause, but I'm like, yeah, that's it. We've got, which comparatively in the space of FSHD organizations, that is no small potatoes, right? I think in Australia or the UK, they have maybe 2. Most of our organizations around the world are led by volunteers, which is how we got our start. But now we're up to 14, but that's covering all the educational programs, covering all of the research work that we do now through our chief science officer. We do all the chapter programs, the walk and roll, engagement initiatives across the country. There's a whole lot. So just 14 of us trying to knock it out and get all that done.
That's kind of hard to believe. I mean, that's a lot of ground to cover. Constantly the calendar's turning from one event to another, and that's only from my perspective of all the events that come and go. What is though the the big events coming that you can talk about, here as we enter this fourth quarter? And what's
Well, yeah, I think, well, one is with you. So if people want to hear a lot more about all the work that we're doing, they should tune in on Giving Tuesday for our radio marathon, our radiothon, we like to call it. That's November 29th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central. Hopefully you have that in your calendar because it's not going to be much of a show without you, Tim. And we're going to have guests on.
I will be there. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to have guests on all day long, about every 15, 20 minutes, a different guest for 9 hours. And that's very, very exciting. That's a part of our year-end campaign. Anybody who is familiar with the nonprofit sector knows that the vast majority of, not just us, any nonprofit in the country, the vast majority of their funding comes in the fourth quarter of the year. We're no different. And so we've got a lot going on as we raise funds at the end of this year that will propel all the work forward for next year. And because we take that very seriously, every dime that comes in to us doesn't belong to us. It belongs to patients and families. Any of the work that we do, you guys are the boss. Everything that we do is about making lives better for those that are impacted by FSHD, getting us closer to treatments and a cure, and hopefully, working ourselves all out of jobs. So we take the investment very seriously. And we realized recently, it's like we've been talking so much about what's been happening out there in the field with all these amazing announcements lately. We hadn't been telling our folks as much about all the important things that we're doing. And so we are remedying that, and that started this week. So we're putting out a bunch of blogs through the end of the year that I think people will find really, really interesting. The first one just came out earlier this week. And we're going to tell you all a lot more about how we're investing the funds that you entrust to us in the research. When we started, we were pretty much a research funding organization, which is the way a lot of the organizations around the globe currently function. We now are so much more. We not only fund research, but we always also leverage our time and our talent and our resources through our therapeutic accelerator initiatives. And we're going to be putting out a whole series of these blog posts that tell you about how we invest your money, how we leverage our seat at the table to bring people together. That's things like the Clinical Trial Research Network, the International Research Congress that we're currently planning that will be in Milan in June, that brings the researchers all across the globe together to talk and strategize and work together collaboratively to move the field forward. It's all the work we do to just transform the field through like our PACT initiatives and supporting Move Plus and the PACT registry, which is gonna slated to come online in 2023, and activating a community across the globe, really. We have our chapter program all across North America, but we also, June I say June like everybody knows June because I think everybody
does. Yeah.
I think everybody knows June. And her great wisdom years ago, she said, the cure can come from anywhere. Patients are everywhere. We need to make sure we're not just connecting with people in the US, but across the globe. And so she's been facilitating our World Alliance. And we now have member organizations on every continent on the planet, practically. Most of them are volunteers, like our chapter leaders here in the US. And they are not only connecting patients, but also building up the entire organization for their entire country. And so we know that it's really important that we continue to pour into them and provide as much resources and support as we can to help them be more successful. We don't want them to reinvent the wheel on some things. If we can just hand it over and say, hey, we already got that, take it, take it and put it in your own language, take it and adapt it to your country. And so we're doing a World Alliance Leadership Summit also in June in Milan. It's a lot easier for folks that couldn't come to the US this past June when we had our meeting in Orlando, but we want to take it to them. So a lot of things moving on all fronts. I don't have time to cover it all today in depth, but that's what all these blog posts coming out are for. And the first one talks about the $3.4 million that we've invested in research in the last 2 years. So 2.5 of that has funds grants, more academic and industry researchers. And this first blog post is going to give you some details as to the areas we fund, why we put the research funding into those areas. And this first one is like a 3-part series. So the next blog in the series will tell you a little bit more about our therapeutic accelerator projects. And that's things like the health economics outcome report, test FSHD, some of the biomarker work that Jamshed is working on, and continue on down the line. There's a million things. So
and that blog post, yes, is up. Those numbers that Leigh's talking about is there for you to digest and understand as well. Posted November 13th. 3.4 million to speed us along our journey, part 1. That is the title of the blog, written by June. And yeah, we all should know who June is by now, right?
Well, if you don't, you're brand new to us or you've been under a rock. So yeah, she's pretty amazing. So yeah, I think that it's just, hopefully people will just have, the goal is to inform people and be really transparent about all the work that we do, help people better understand what we're hard at work at every day on your behalf, and the work that we're doing to try to speed treatments and a cure and help you live a better life in the interim, until we do. So that's really a lot about where all the funding goes directly is what's coming up in all these blog posts. But I did want to tell you guys just a little bit more about some of the other things that we are working on that are very exciting. So we also launched just this week a needs assessment survey. So if you get our emails, that is, you would have gotten it in your inbox on Monday, a link to that. We're going to send an email out, probably just went out yesterday, Wednesday, since this is going to air.
Was it Wednesday?
Yeah. This is going to air on Thursday. So
that's right.
Yesterday, by the time you're listening to this, on Wednesday. And you can also get to it across all our social accounts. This survey takes less than 5 minutes to complete. A bunch of us tested it. It's under 5 minutes. And the goal is to tell us a little bit more about your needs for living with FSHD and how you want information delivered to you, so that it helps us better represent your needs to industry and to pharma. It helps us better infuse your voice into the research projects that we do and others do, and it helps us deliver information. It will help us deliver information to you in a more meaningful and concise, the way you want to hear it. So it's really short. It's under 5 minutes, and the impact will be pretty great. And so I'd really encourage folks to take a second, click in your inbox, go to one of our social accounts, and take that quick survey, because the benefits all come back to you. We're going to take that information and make sure that we're serving up the best information we can to you in a meaningful way, and serving up your, representing your voice in a more meaningful way to pharmaceuticals and industry as we move some more things forward. So quick and easy, which is quite different from the last survey that we asked you to fill out, which was the health economics.
Yes.
That one was not under 5 minutes. And so first and foremost, I just want to thank everyone that took the time to fill out that very lengthy and robust survey, because I think it took, at least an hour to fill out, and probably a little more with some research to pull together numbers, on what things cost you. That survey, now we had over 300 people fill that out and respond to that. And while you say 300 versus 1 million worldwide, that doesn't seem like much. That is very statistically significant.
Okay.
Most studies of this kind, when you do a health economics study, we called it our true cost of FSHD, but it's a health economics impact study. Most of those have about 100. If you get 100, they're like, that's awesome. We had over 300 people fill it out completely. That's an amazing number. It's the first survey of its kind in the United States. And now the hard work begins, right? So Jamshid and his team, they're working on not only analyzing and munging all that data that so many patients and families provided for us, but that will then also be paired with payer data. So what did the insurance companies pay? So this half was what do patients pay out of pocket. We're also looking at what do the payer systems pay. And so we're working with Optum is a partner with us on that. They're giving us de-identified, information, just payer information, so we can munge all that together and really qualify, hey, this is the impact on a life living with FSHD. This is the financial impact, whether it's in lost wages or, in just actual costs of like adaptations to your home, that kind of a thing. That's really important work that we're doing it now ahead of an approved therapy. Because what that does is it helps pharmaceutical companies and payer systems understand the economic burden of FSHD and then make meaningful, well thought out decisions about what they're going to cover and when, at what rate. So it's a part of saying, hey, look, the impact of living with FSHD is huge. Even if this therapy is kind of expensive, the payoff, the payoff is there in the long run, not just from a obviously quality of life perspective. Obviously, that's the most important thing to all of us, but we have to consider the finances of it as well. And it's really important. And we didn't want to wait until the therapy was approved to start the study. We want the results to already be there. So it's already sitting at the ready by the time the first therapy gets approved. And so as we move forward with that, we'll bring people some, results and information, but it's going to take a while. So it's a lot of data to go through. And this has got a lot of rigor to it. It's not just a survey, it's a scientific study that requires analysis and presentation and being published and all of those things. So it's going to take us a little bit of time, but we'll continue to provide folks a feedback on the results.
Yeah, because it's really important that people understand how much their involvement has been with this. And you mentioned, 14 staff members. Some of those are designated to do this kind of work on these studies. Gathering this information is important because if a treatment comes, we want to make sure it's affordable, right? I mean, isn't that some of it?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that insurance companies will pay for it. We want to make sure that doctors will prescribe it.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure that Medicare, Medicaid, any payer system will cover it, and that it will be patients will be able to get a prescription. And that's not, while this was a US-based health economics study, we are also now working on that in other countries as well, because it's not just about access for patients here, it's about access for patients everywhere. So, we're trying to leverage and do some of this work with our partners in other countries as well, so that patients everywhere can have access to therapies when they come online. So that's some super important work that we're doing. Let's see, what's some other things I can update you on. So Test FSHD, we've had the chance to talk about that here. That is our genetic testing program that puts the power to go and request and receive a full genetic test in the hands of the patients. That's pretty groundbreaking in case that point is missed. The fact that a patient can come and click a button and make an appointment with the genetic counselor and then get a full genetic counseling session and get the test without having to fight their doctors for it is pretty remarkable. So this is another one of those multifaceted programs. We know that one of the things that you need to be able to be in
a trial and things.
Trials is to have a genetic test. You come to the table already with one that helps get you up in the queue, for participation. That's been a real barrier for some people because they have doctors that don't want to run it, or doctors don't know how to request one, or it can be a barrier for a lot of folks. So this puts the power in the patient's hands.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, it's also a research study. So it was this first round, 150 folks have been through the program, completely funded. Didn't cost anyone that's got the test a dime. We put up half the money, our industry partners put up half the money, and the entire thing, from the genetic counseling to the blood makeup, the results, all of it's been completely covered. Because now we're also doing some research on that. So one of the things we wanted to know is there any correlation with FSHD1 and FSHD2, and do people sometimes have both? And This is where you should be talking to Jamshed, not me. So he's probably going to be mad at me if I say something wrong. But typically, once you get a positive result for FSHD1, they stop and they don't continue to run it for FSHD2. And they would only run it for FSHD2 if they think you have it, but you don't test positive for FSHD. You don't come up with FSHD1. We wanted to see if there was. We did both.
Yeah.
Full screen on both to see. Do we have folks that have both? And does both, could we then, there be learnings from that? Is it possible that if someone has both FSHD1 and 2, could that mean their progression is greater or their more severity of symptoms? That again, the analysis of all that isn't done. Jamshed's going to write up on that. He's working on that, but the initial takeaway is we're not really seeing that people have both. It's pretty much either or.
One or the other. Okay.
Yeah. What all that means, we'll have to let the people much smarter than me sort of tell us more about that as Jamshed does his work on that. But so the infrastructure is still in place. We are currently in the process of transitioning it from the completely funded program to one where you can still request it, still come get a test. But at this juncture, when it reopens, hopefully in the very, very near future, they would work with you to get either private pay or get your insurance covered. They've already successfully, our partner Genome Medical with that, they've already successfully helped some patients who didn't qualify. They weren't they didn't check all the boxes for the pilot study, for the pilot group. But they helped them get it covered through their insurance. When their insurance was initially saying no, they know how to go to bat for you, and they were able to get it covered for some folks. So that program is going to come back online soon. It will stay, and it's pretty cool. The phlebotomist comes to your house. You don't even have to leave to go to someplace to get the blood draw. Full genetic counseling on the front end, the back end. If you get the genetic counseling on the front end and say, nope, I don't want to get tested, back out.
You can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, then that leads into like you mentioned already before, then the Giving Tuesday event, which helps create funds to work on, funnel to these projects. And I always find it interesting. You're right. Because some people do wonder, where is our money going and what is it doing? And I think some people kind of fail to see or understand, and it's kind of like right in their face a little bit that, nonprofits, they do, get certified or, ranked to some degree.
No, that's a really important point.
I mean, it's right there on our front page of our site. There's only a certain way you can get those kind of accreditations.
So you're exactly right. So nonprofits in this country are monitored. They're vetted. We have to meet criteria. We have to show that we're good stewards of the money. We have to be transparent with their finances, all of those things. And there are a number of organizations that review and rate the work of nonprofits. And we maintain the highest level of ratings and reviews from all of the organizations that rate the work of nonprofits in the U.S. So we are a top rated charity. You can read our financials. You can go on our website or go to Charity Navigator or to Great Nonprofits or a bunch of these places, and GuideStar is another one. They'll give you a click through to all of our financials. We have excellent standards of money management and all of that. We check every box for all of these groups. The one thing that I did want to point out that is unique to us and not everybody gets. Not everybody gets 4-star, 5-star platinum ratings for sure, but the Better Business Bureau also accredits. You can go through and get accreditation as a charity with the Better Business Bureau. That is extremely hard to receive. It is very rigorous. It is a lengthy process. They look under every rock, man. They check everything. They will not give you the seal as an accredited charity unless you really check all the boxes and are trustworthy and good stewards of the money. And we received that last year. So
wow. And that is on there. And I feel like sometimes, there is a little bit of you have to, get on your defense side, say, we are so grateful for what you can give, as little or as large as it may be. And just so you know, like this is, it's almost an insurance. Like, FSHD Society is very willing to go through those rigors to get those accreditations, as Leigh is talking about. And I think some people have a tendency to quickly move through that homepage and kind of not see it or notice it. And it is big and bold. I mean, it is there, but that's what that means. I had a friend of mine who does work for a charity organization locally. He does marketing for them, and he noticed that with the FSHD side. He actually used your website as to help kind of guide what they were going to do. And he mentioned to me about that charity navigator 4-star. He goes, you know how hard that is to get? So if you're in the industry, you understand. And it comes with some weight. So I want people to have confidence, I guess, is really the point.
Well, I appreciate that. I take the fact that none of this belongs to us. I take that everyone takes that very seriously. And so it is important that every decision we make about any dime that we spend, it's not ours to spend.
Right.
It belongs to all of you. It belongs to all of you, and it's important that we make wise decisions, that we spend it wisely, that we keep our expenses down, that we keep the impact of our dollars high. And that's why I wanted to just take a few minutes and talk about the fact that whether you give, $5 or $5,000, it all matters and it all has an impact. And I just think it's so important that yes, we bring the news of all the exciting things that are happening in the industry, but also say, hey, we want to make sure people feel comfortable in the work that we're doing on behalf of all the patients and families as well. And so that's why we're going to take a little bit more time now through the end of the year to just talk about that and answer your questions and fill in the blanks and, make sure you feel comfortable where it's going. And, I did want to point out too, we talked about Giving Tuesday, our radiothon. Yeah. I forgot to mention that we do have members of our board of directors that have put up $150,000 match. So any money that comes in that day on the 29th will be doubled and matched by some members of our board. And this is a great opportunity for folks that have not been sure if they want to support our work or think, oh, my $25 can't, what good could that do? That 25 becomes 50, and then it's paired with somebody else's. Yeah. With somebody else's $50, and then it all makes a really big, big.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, the impact is huge. I noticed that. Yeah, when I was looking, starting already, gather my notes and what's the direction we're going to go with that whole broadcaster show, as I call it. Leigh will be there producing and putting people on with great guests coming on, and what's that match? What's that number? 150,000. That is massive. So yeah, I mean, any little bit. That's why I said that before. If it's a little, if it's a lot, doesn't matter. It all makes a big impact. It really does, especially collectively. And then with the match on top of it on that Tuesday, it's huge. And I look forward to doing it. It's selfishly, it's a vessel, to help. What I wanted for this podcast a long time ago was, how can we get this to be some type of fundraising vessel? Is there a way to do that? And with the help of Leigh and so many others within the FSHD Society, that is becoming something, possible now. And so selfishly, I'm very happy about that. I'm like, woohoo, this is almost like my little chapter, so to speak. And, it is. And it does mean a lot to me personally, but also because, I have the disease. I've met so many people that have it, and it just, we gotta get rid of this thing. And this is one of the ways. Yeah. Well,
I don't want to make too light or skip over the fact that this is a huge commitment that you have made to the podcast, to the Giving Tuesday Radiothon, which was your baby. I think that first year, did we figure out, was like 12 hours?
It was 12 hours.
We were both a little
I don't know what I was thinking.
So 9, we're doing 9 this year. We thought better not lay you up for the rest of the week, but
oh my gosh. Yeah.
I love it so much because so many folks from the community come together and we get to hear a little bit from so many people. And, I don't think I am alone by any stretch when I say, as a member of the staff, it's the people that we work with and work for that make all the difference, that make this not a job, make this the greatest thing that we all get to be a part of. We have, well, a lot of us don't have FSHD in our family. We have several members of our staff that do. Yeah. I think that for someone like me who did not even know what FSHD was until Mark Stone called me and said, invited me in many years ago. Now, it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me to be a part of this, because I have fallen in love with so many members of this community. I'm friends with, I feel like you and we are friends, and I care about what happens to you. And I think about Amy, and I think about Minette, and I think about, it could be like Romper Room, and I could just start listing all the names, right? So I don't want to not call out somebody's name and miss it, but I care deeply. We all do. And it's days like Giving Tuesday that just bring it all together. It's what the walk and roll does. It just brings everybody together, and it was amazing for all of us to fly around the country and go to different walks and meet so many people. And it's like little family reunions everywhere where the walk was happening. And you see the impact that has on people, that they get to be in community together, that's priceless. That is priceless. And
what it's about. Yeah.
So you do an amazing job, Tim. And we have amazing volunteers that run all of our gathering place events, all the support groups that we do, and all the chapter events that we do. And
the growth is
awesome.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Everyone's really dove in. I can't believe how many groups there are of different aspects that this disease affects. I think we feel like there's so much more ground we've covered over these years, making sure that every person is represented, if it's a caregiver, if it's early onset, you name it. I tell you what, like a massive impact with the community with that.
That's absolutely right. And that's the goal, is to say, hey, it's just like you called up and said, hey, do you guys have a podcast? I'm a listener. I like to listen to podcasts. No, well, we'll kind of rope you in. We kind of said, okay, hopefully it's been a good thing for you too. I know it's been amazing for the community. And when Allie and Kristen and we started talking, and they said, we just got to do more for early onset. We said, yeah, let's pour into that. Let's make it happen. And when Renee Baker said, I love the wellness group, but I want a group that's just for women. There are unique facets of having this disease when you're a woman, and we want to be able to talk about them with some, okay, great, let's do that. And then people came and said, a lot more interest in exercise and wellness and stretching and yoga and all of those things. And we said, we're tired of people getting wrong advice from their doctors to say, go sit and be sedentary and do nothing. We know better now. And so we pull together people that are experts in the field, and twice a month you can come to the Feeling Fit with FSHD and be a part of that group, and and hear from patients and experts in the field about and find what's right for you. And we just want to be able to continue to meet all those needs and check the boxes for patients and make their life richer and more fulfilling, and deliver better education programs, and which we're doing a lot of work on. I'll have to come back later and talk about that, the education work that we're doing to deliver better, more streamlined, more targeted education resources for folks through FSHDU. Lots of work happening in that space, because we don't want a need to go unmet. It's really important to us to meet those needs. And so, we can't do all that without the funding.
Yeah.
And we are doing our best. We network with a lot of folks, and we get a lot of funding from a lot of places. But anyone who wants to be a part of that, I want them to know that it makes a difference, that we are, try to be very excellent stewards of that money and spend it with transparency and honesty and integrity, and deliver back to patients and families what they need now, today, to live a better life, while we charge forward and try to get up that hill towards treatments and a cure. We all desperately want that to happen. We can't wait for that day when we can celebrate when that first treatment falls, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next, and then that's the goal. So,
that's the goal.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thanks,
Awesome.
Leigh. Unless there's something that we didn't cover, but man, I think we got it. Right?
I could go on forever, but this is all the high on the list stuff. And just come see us on Giving Tuesday, be a part of that. Tune into the blog, be a part of that. There's a lot of really great information coming out for that. And fill out that needs assessment survey so we can continue to deliver what's most meaningful to you super quick, under 5 minutes, but will help us, be better at delivering what you want and what you need in a way that is meaningful to you. So that's plenty.
Absolutely.
I think that was a pretty good fire hose.
Great job. I'm soaked with knowledge, soaked with information. You will be as well when you come back. Yeah, Tuesday, the 29th is the Giving Tuesday
Absolutely.
Radiothon, telethon, however, I don't know how we're totally spinning it, but it
We
is
call it a
lot of fun.
radiothon. We
Radiothon.
hung our hat on that a couple years ago and stuck with it
Right.
since you're
That's right.
FSHD radio.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun. Well, thanks again, Leigh, for joining us. And you want to find out more about this information we've talked about today and so much more of what's upcoming and those blogs, go fshdsociety.org. Just that simple. Thanks,
Awesome.
Leigh. Take care all.
Thanks, Tim.